Hello, everybody. This is a Lamley showcase. I'm not done with Matchbox. I was doing Matchbox all weekend at the gathering, but I've still got lots of stuff to showcase and preview. I've got moving parts. This is a review. I think if you've been in the United States, most of the stores that have moving parts, like Walmart, have this Mix 3. I've got 3 new castings that I have just meant to open. I haven't opened them yet, so we're going to do that. And then I have Mix 4, which is just hitting. Many people have been seeing it. Hobby dealers have it, like Village Diecast, Wheel Collectors, J-Car, some of the Lamley's partners. This Mix 4 stuff samples actually came from Mattel. Mix 3, I've had in my possession since Village Diecast sent it a while. So we're just going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone here and get this done. Let's just get the Mix 3 stuff done. These are, like I said, are new castings like the 2021 Mazda MX30. I'm just going to rip through these as quickly as we can before we preview Mix 4, which I think is pretty fantastic. And this model actually is kind of cool because it has, like a lot of Matchbox models lately with the opening rear hatch, there's some changes. This one actually has a dog in the back, but there are others that have, like, I think luggage. I went ahead and opened up the dog model. This is kind of a cool little crossover. We've been seeing this from Matchbox, some of the new Mazdas, just like really cool road cars. We've seen the Subaru Forester. I kind of like this mixed in. I don't want the whole line to be these kind of cars that maybe you don't totally notice as they pass you by, but it's nice to have a little mix of these in with everything else. So that one, I think we'll just move these over to the side. Another new model, and there was other models in this mix, but I'm just going to go with the new models. This is the Seagrave fire truck with the Camion on Incendie Seagrave. I think that's because it's a, is this a French model? I don't know. It's just a new casting, and it's a fire truck. Always weird opening up these. I have not been a fan. I understand why they're doing it, but I don't know if this kind of, this card style totally works. Well, here you go. Let's take the rubber band off too. Oh, because there's a little piece that you can add to it. Wow. All right, so I'm assuming you slide that in. Oh, that's probably because the blister was too big or too small for this one. So the moving part here is obviously the ladder, which stretches out. Oops, I guess it pulls out. There you go. You can kind of stretch it out that way. This is kind of a cool casting. It's larger than, I mean, these are going to be, scale-wise, they're not going to be perfectly to scale. You need a real working rig size, and maybe they've done this kind of model, but it's nice in this miniature size, and it looks like it's hefty enough, right? It looks like they've done metal in the front and the back, which is kind of nice with the chrome trim. So this one's nicely done. Fire trucks aren't necessarily my thing, but this one I think is a very nice casting. And we'll definitely add that. The casting from Mix 3 that I was most interested in is this guy, the Range Rover. 1975 Range Rover. Matchbox did a Range Rover. It wasn't like a Roll-O-Matic or something at some point. That, was kind of cool. A little bit out of proportion from that era. But this is kind of cool to see a classic Range Rover. And I think it's really well done as well. Opening hood. No details in the opening hood, but I'm not going to complain because they've got details on the side. They've done the window trim. They've done the rear. And they've done, actually, total side detail and then the front grille. So this one I think is a really well done casting. And I haven't seen a lot of people talking about it, but in terms of the moving parts, new models, this is very, very cool. And I wanted to make sure this was seen. This one actually has a right-hand drive and a left-hand drive. I opened up the right-hand drive, obviously. So there's the Mix 3 models, just going through those really quickly. And let's get right to all of Mix 4. Matchbox is all in on moving parts, and we saw that in the preview with Abe this weekend at the Matchbox Gathering. Not only did they dedicate a whole segment to the new models in the basic range, but they dedicated a whole new group of new models in the moving parts, and it's fantastic to see, and I think that collectors have been, and everyone has been embracing the moving parts models. Let's start. That being said, some of them are great, some of them not so great. 2016 BMW i8, which we have an opening parts version, and a basic range. Let's just stay with the basic because this opening parts, it just doesn't work. And the obvious thing here is that it has the opening doors, and it's kind of cool how they were able to create the opening doors, but it doesn't sit flush. The color, because the doors are plastic on the BMW, it doesn't match the metal. And it just seems like, why don't we just keep the basic? And some of the other moving parts models have done so well, and they've been so well executed, that trying to do these scissor doors this way in this kind of budget just didn't work, and that's okay. And we should just, I think, move on to it. Another new cast, or not new casting, but another model. I think we're seeing the second version. This is the Toyota FJ Cruiser. We're going to see an orange version later this year in the Japan exclusive set. But the Toyota FJ Cruiser in, I guess we'd say that's silver, right? Or gray, or whatever you want to call it, with the opening doors. Kind of nice. This has been a casting that people have clamored for forever. Seems like some people didn't like it. I think it's fine. I like it. I'm not a huge fan of the car itself. I should be, but I've never really taken to it. But I think this is a nice replica of it. Maybe people think it's a little too small, but I actually like it. We'll put that right there. Next one, because I think we have two more before we get to the new models, is the Henry J. Gasser. Now this one, it was released in collectibles last year, Matchbox collectors, last year in orange. And this Edelbrock version is so cool. Now, you're not going to see me open these because they actually sent me packaged and loose. Mattel did. This Edelbrock version, so first off, it has the opening hood. And then the Edelbrock deco, the mismatched wheels. This is the semi-truck wheels right in the back, and then the standard disc wheel in the front. And the Edelbrock, Goodyear. This thing is great. I think that this casting, obviously it's a Gasser, so you can compare it to the 55 Bel Air and the Hot Wheels line. But they're doing this one right with the proper decos, kind of a vintage look for this one. And considering it's got details all over the place, front, side, and back, for a model that's not too expensive, all things considered, I think it's great. I'm not a huge fan of Matchboxes with two-piece tires, unless they're, because their two-piece wheels have not been great. And they've had to borrow from Hot Wheels a little bit, which actually I don't have any complaints there. But I've always thought like Hot Wheels has done better in the plastic wheels as of late, but Matchbox still rules when it comes to plastic wheels. And we'll see that later. And so I just kind of prefer the models that way. All right, next one. 1950 Chevy Suburban. This one was debuted in a National Parks livery, which was so cool. One of my favorites from last year. And now we get it in... what is that? Kind of like a camp? Yeah, a Camp Aeroflint deco, which is nice and simple and somewhat vintage. I think it could be a little more vintage, but this is a great casting. This classic Suburban, kind of digging that one. In this gold color, it has, I think, plastic fenders, right? But they were able to match this one pretty good. You don't notice the difference like you do on the BMW, the difference in color. I think that one's well executed. Maybe it all depends on the kind of color that they use. So that's, look, so we have the modern BMW i8, we have the kind of middle FJ40 or the FJ Cruiser, then we have the two classics in the Suburban, and now we have three new castings. So let's start, like the BMW i8, this is a casting that we've seen in basic, and now we see it in moving parts. It's the 2020 Corvette, it's the C8. This is almost exactly like the basic, except it has this rear portion that opens, and check out the engine here. Look at the details there. With the Corvette engine, and then this has rear details, front details, nice color, nice wheels. Again, Matchbox nailing the basic wheels, the plastic 5-spokes. They've had these forever, and they're still super modern and super cool. Just really, really nice wheels, and this is a really, really nice casting. All right, other new model, 1961 Jeep FC, very cool kind of truck Jeep kind of thing. I didn't even know this vehicle existed, so I kind of like when they do these kind of vintage cars that I have never heard of. I'll put that right here. Here's the model. Moving part is the bed moves up. You can actually balance it there, which is kind of nice. And then you close it again, nicely detailed. Basically, the sides and the front looks like they're done here. Not bad considering this is like a basic version of a moving, these are moving parts basic models, right? With the plastic wheels. This is nice and clean and just simple. I think the casting is nice. The moving parts, my biggest complaint with moving parts sometimes is that in order to have opening doors or an opening hood, sometimes you see these big gaps and the models don't look great when everything is closed. But this one looks great. And I think, all of these, that's what I said. The BMW didn't work, but as Matchbox continues on, more and more of these models just seem to be executed really, really well. And they seem to be really getting that moving parts thing down. All right, that is the Jeep FC, and we finish off with the model that I think has generated the most interest. It is the 2020 Porsche 911 Carrera 4S in red. Should we do a little Porsche history? I'll go real quickly. I pulled out all the Porsche castings that I have. I pulled out all the red castings I have, so we have to start with the non-reds. We've got the convertible here. Some of these, I think this model is at least 20 years old. This casting, at least. This is the Porsche 911 Carrera Cabriolet. Sometimes they don't put the years on these. I kind of wish they would. But you had the convertible Porsche. Just recently, like in the last few years, we've had this awesome 4x4 911. This rally style 911 that was released. This is the Toy Fair version from a few years ago. Now let's go to the red stuff. We had in the moving parts, we've had the classic turbo, which was based on the original Porsche 911 turbo that Matchbox did. This is the red version, which I thought was really nice and clean. We've seen several versions of that one. Something that didn't go totally well was the Cayman. Everything starts with a C, and then I tend to forget, like Cayenne, Cayman. I don't start with C's anymore, but this casting didn't totally come out the way I would have hoped, and it's a little too big, but the Panamera was fantastic. Older version of the Panamera. Maybe this one could use an update, just with the more updated Panamera, but a lot of people didn't like this car. I get it. I think it's a cool car. The backside didn't totally work, but it's a really nice version. This was actually designed by Rio Sada several years ago. And then the two that I think are the best Porsche castings released so far by Matchbox. One is this other Porsche 911 Turbo. This one was released, I think, in around 2002. And it's just nicely done. It's got that style of headlights that was released, that Porsche did for a while before they moved back to the round headlights. This casting is just so cool. And there's several versions of this one that to go out there and try and find. But this red version was released fairly recently. And I think that one is really well done. And then I think the best Porsche casting is this one. I didn't actually bring out the Cayenne, but that's okay. But this is the 911 GT3. Still a great casting. It's going to be the last Super Chase this year. This red version was released fairly recently. Just so nice. Used to have a plastic spoiler, now has a metal spoiler. Just a great casting. Rio Sada design from, I think, 2007. And now we have this one, which is fantastic as well. 911 Carrera 4S. Opening doors. I'll show those to you. Get the interior. Interior looks nice. Doors have a nice click to them. And the casting itself, I think, is really well done. Maybe a tiny bit too small, but I think all the proportions are there. I think it looks good. Wheels on the new Porsches look big. And I think this one kind of replicates that nicely. And I think this one is really well done. Love that Hot Wheels and Matchbox are releasing more and more Porsches. No complaints with that. And this is a great mix. I think the Porsche goes first. I think the Gasser will always go. Corvette's fantastic. This is a really good mix. I think that poor BMW is going to hang, unfortunately. But I'm digging what's in this mix. And there's a lot more to come. The new Bronco, the Mitsubishi Celeste in the next mix. So there's tons. And then they previewed a ton of stuff. And if you haven't seen the Matchbox preview for 2023, you definitely need to go watch it. That's on the channel just from a couple days ago. Anyway, you guys tell me what you think. What's your favorite here? Digging this mix. Thanks, everybody. Bye.